Welcome back to the Culture Curriculum Chat. I'm your host, Jebeh Edmunds. And as always, I'm excited to bring you conversations that challenge us to grow, reflect, and take action toward creating more inclusive communities and workplaces. Today, we are joined by a true leader in the field of diversity, inclusion, equity, and accessibility, Mr. Michael Bach. With nearly 20 years of experience, Michael has been at the forefront of fostering inclusive workplaces around the world. He's the founder of the Canadian Centre for Diversity and Inclusion, as well as Pride at Work Canada. And he's held key leadership roles at KPMG. He's been recognized internationally. Michael is also a certified Cornell diversity professional and has held numerous awards, including being named one of the 10 most influential DE&I leaders by CIO Views magazine in 2023. Michael is also, I know, keep it listening, y'all, a best-selling author of two groundbreaking books, Birds of All Feathers and Alphabet Soup, both of which continue to shape conversations in the IDEA space. His insights have been featured in Forbes and on numerous podcasts, including ours, making him one of the most trusted voices on how organizations can embed diversity into their DNA. Michael, welcome to our show. I am so honored to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much. And the honor is mine. I really, really appreciate it. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Oh, me too. So, Michael, our topic today is about privilege as a catalyst. So, can you take us back to when you recognize your own privilege, not something to hide from necessarily, but as fuel to make that difference?
Yeah, it's childhood. My mother,
Yes.
so God bless the mothers.
Oh, yes.
She was very aware of her own privilege as a white woman living in a middle class community. And she made sure that I understood that I was going to be treated differently because
Mhm.
I was a white man. And not only that, that I had a responsibility to use that to the benefit of others. So I can think, I was probably 4 or 5 when I started to become aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah, she onboarded me early. Um, she was not, she was not going to have my father,
Mhm.
bless his heart, who was
Yeah.
completely unaware of his privilege.
Yes.
So she made sure very early that I knew what was going on.
And bless your mother's heart to recognize that with her lens and her experiences, that she wasn't going to let her next generation, her son, to go in, without knowing and harnessing his own privilege and the power that it holds to look out for others as well. So kudos to your mom, and our
Mhm.
mothers, because they want to make sure their next, people after them are aware of things, growing up too. Bless my mom too, just the lens of being a African immigrant in a predominantly white community. I had my lessons too.
Of course.
Yeah, that's amazing. And, I also want you to continue with that of, many people wrestle with the idea of privilege, and I don't know how to harness that myself or unaware, or they feel like privilege is that boogeyman word, of, oh, because I have privilege, I've had it rough too. And it's like we've all had it rough in our hard lives in this experience, but it's not something to shy away from, and to
Yeah.
recognize other people's privilege is different than yours. So could you dive into more of that as well?
Yeah. Well, the
Hmm.
first thing people need to understand is that privilege is not a 4-letter word. It's
Thank
not, it's
you.
like 7, I think.
Yeah,
You
I got you.
don't
Yes.
think of privilege as a bad thing or a good thing. Privilege
Mm,
is something that is assigned to you by society because of a characteristic that you have. We talk a lot about white privilege. We talk a lot about male privilege, but there's lots of different types of privilege. There's financial privilege and educational privilege. There's so many different types of privilege. Consider this. Many of your listeners are tuning in thanks to the power of high-speed internet. Well,
Mhm.
6% of Americans do not have access to high-speed internet. Whether or not they can afford it is irrelevant. It just does not exist in their community.
Yeah.
So that's a privilege. You have a
Mhm.
privilege of having high-speed internet. It gives you access to the world. Again, not a bad thing or a good thing. It's not like you have any control unless you're the CEO of, I don't know, Verizon or Spectrum. You have no control over where we have high-speed internet in this country, but you still have access to it. So that's the first thing I would say.
Yes.
The second thing is privilege doesn't make you a bad person.
Yes.
You may be a horrible person, but that's not because of your privilege.
Yes.
Your privilege is just something that exists. I was delivering a training years ago and talking about privilege. Long story, but it came up and I asked the audience, how many of you feel guilty because you're white? Half the room's hands went up. And I was stunned by that because I have never felt guilty about being white. I have no control over it.
No.
I did not decide to be white. I wasn't in the womb like, I feel like I'm going to be white. No, that's not a thing.
No, it's not. Yeah.
So let go of the guilt, let go of the shame. Um, be a good person. Know that the privilege exists. You have to know it exists,
Yes.
but then
Yes.
use that to the advantage of others. The other thing I will say is just because you have privilege doesn't negate the hardships in your life. It doesn't mean that you're universally privileged. I am a white man and experience scads of privilege that come with that. I'm also gay and I live with a disability or two. So I experience the marginalization that comes with that. But the one thing does not negate the other. You can be a white man that grew up in poverty. Absolutely. Poverty is a huge marginalization in the world. It
Yes.
doesn't negate that you're still a white man. It doesn't negate
Hmm.
that, you can drive a car down the street and the police aren't going to stop you because they don't think you can afford that car.
That part.
So privilege is a complex thing, but it can be broken down into very simple parts that you have no choice in the matter. So the question is not, do you have privilege? It's what you're going to do with that privilege to make other people's lives better.
Yes. And that's the thing where I feel a lot of people in our country get so held up with, privilege as, like you said, like the four-letter word. And then they feel like they can be absolved of, well, it's just my lot in life. It's like, yeah, it is your lot in life and how society's systems have put in place of the privileges that you have. But I also like how you touched on it, Michael, of it can be so many different privileges. It's not just one of the other identities that you carry. And that's another thing a lot of us people, when we are talking about privilege, they feel like, oh, it's just one or the other. It's so binary, white privilege versus privilege of people of color. It's like, no, there's so many different nuances
Yeah.
about that. Now, another thing I really like how you touched on as well is around the world as far as economic privilege, as far as even access to things. People would probably ask you, and I know our listeners are going to be like, okay, I get this piece, but I also feel that with my privilege, I'm afraid I'm going to do that wrong thing. And I know you've been in this space for decades. I hear it with my culture competency clients as well. It's like, but what if I say the wrong thing? And I always say you will, but there's
Yes.
what you're gonna step in it. I have been saying that. But what is some other advice that you can help those timid folks that are gonna say the wrong thing? Can you help give them some advice of how we can just move on and use our work for positive change?
Well, stop trying to be perfect.
That part,
Um,
yes.
because and you nailed on the head, you're going to make a mistake.
Mhm.
When I'm having conversations with people about pronouns and they're so terrified that they're going to make a mistake. I'm like, you're going to. You are absolutely going to. I guarantee it. The question is
Mhm.
not if, it's what you do when you make the mistake. And that's
Yes.
the important part. You just need to correct yourself and move on.
Yes.
Learn from that mistake. I
Yes.
I I I think too many people are afraid of offending, upsetting, doing something wrong, that they end up in this kind of paralysis situation where
Yes.
they don't do anything, they don't say anything. But that's exactly the wrong direction.
Yes.
I would
Yes.
rather people screw up repeatedly and learn from their mistakes
Mm.
than do nothing, right? We
Yes.
need everybody rowing in the same direction. And
Mhm.
it is I get the fear. I mean, I screw up all the time,
Me
but
too.
I learn from that mistake and I move on. And that's the key. You have to have this openness,
Mhm. Mm.
um, that willingness to be wrong. And as
Mhm.
leaders, we are taught we are never supposed to be wrong, but we are also, most of us, humans
Yes.
and subject to the same systems and foibles, and we're going to make mistakes. Um, and so, if we can let go of that obsessive desire to be perfect and to not make a mistake and not hurt, then I think we will do a much better job at actually achieving the change we're looking for. There's a caveat to this, though, Jebeh, and that
Mhm.
is that those of us who are on the, and I'm going to put it in quotes, marginalized side, those of us who, the people of color, queer people,
Yes.
we also have to be willing to help others on their learning journey. So if you are, let's say, I'll use the pronouns example. If you are a person who is gender diverse and someone uses your incorrect pronouns, correct them. Be willing to correct them. And I know that's a lot of work to put on people who are marginalized. Believe me, I understand it. If the person keeps making the mistake, then of course you can get a little huffy with them.
Mm.
But we 99 times out of 100, the person is going to learn from that mistake.
Yes.
We have to be willing to share our stories, those of
Yes.
us that are, to help people learn who we are
Yes. Yes.
and help them grow.
Yeah, and you can't grow if you don't put yourself out there. That's the courage that people need to have. And to shy away, I feel like too, it's an excuse. That's an old excuse. Oh, I don't want to say the wrong thing, so I'm just gonna walk away. And I see Jebba or Michael getting, a slur thrown at, and or somebody saying something that's, calling us out on our name, and we're just gonna just walk away because I don't want to be the next viral moment or but stepping up and saying, "Hey, that's not okay," or, if you flubbed, you have to say, "You know what? I will do the work myself. I own it. I need to watch some YouTube of people that are those folks that are from those communities to learn," and
Yeah.
if I get corrected, I'm gonna take my lumps and go, "Okay, thank you. Thank you for calling me out. Thank you for correcting me. I will do better." And that's a thing where and we can talk about this all day. I know we got a short episode, but that just gets me going because it's like with my name, Jebeh. How many times people even going to the coffee shop and they spell, Jetta, Jenna's, I've been all
Oh,
kinds of names. And I'm like, you do. I thank you for recognizing folks in those marginalized communities are exhausted. Why do I have to constantly correct people? But again, you are also doing that courageous work because you're thinking to yourself, I don't want them to make that same mistake with somebody else because maybe that other person won't be as receptive as myself.
exactly.
So that's another thing that people are like, wow, I'm like, yep, we are emotionally tired, but if I don't do it, who will? And that to
Who
me is
will?
that charge to keep that going because you're right. We can't be rowing in different directions in
No,
this boat.
does not work.
Oh no,
Yeah.
we can't do it. Oh, this is amazing. So I know my listeners, many are educators and nonprofit leaders and entrepreneurs. And often they hear pushback about idea, inclusion, diversity, equity, and access, that it's too expensive, right? How do you reframe idea, Michael, not as a cost, but as an investment with clear returns? I love how you say it's the economy, stupid. Like, come on. How do you break it down for
It's
us? Yes.
well, and for your listeners' understanding, I don't come from the nonprofit world. I worked in the nonprofit world, but quite by
Okay.
accident. I don't
Mm-hmm.
come from an HR background. I grew up in the for-profit world. So when I got into the idea space, I looked at the situation and said, this is costing us money. It's costing us money because we have higher turnover rates. We have lower engagement, lower productivity, lower innovation, higher safety incidents. And each organization can do a bit of a cost benefit analysis on what matters to them.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at, let me back up for a second. There is a benefit to action and a cost to inaction.
That part. Yes.
So yes, you might have to spend a little money on training, but the result will be that engagement will go up. Employee engagement's the panacea that we all look for because high engagement reduces voluntary turnover. It increases productivity, innovation, customer satisfaction. So the benefit of the spend on a little training is that your costs will go down. And I know that some people listening will just be cringing that I'm looking at it from a cost analysis, but I think one of the reasons why we are where we are is because we haven't looked at it from a cost perspective.
That
Because
part.
we haven't made that the first argument. I grew up in a social justice household. Like my parents were hippies. I spent most of my teenage year trying not to buy pot from my father. Like that was my life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's not to say I don't have a social justice core in my body. I do. Absolutely I
Mm-hmm.
do. I'm very much about what's right. And at the same time, um, thinking back to the 35 years I've worked in the queer space when we were fighting for our rights, we didn't get anywhere until we started talking about impact to top and bottom line. And all of a sudden, companies were like, oh, wait a second, that may be something we should look at. And I think about a very relevant example, it was the whole Disney Jimmy Kimmel situation.
Yes.
Disney didn't put him back on the air because they're really nice or because they felt they did the wrong thing. They put him back on the air because they lost millions of subscribers to their
Yep.
platforms.
Yep.
Money talks, honey.
Money
And
talks. Yes.
so coming back to the question, if you look at it from a cost benefit perspective,
Yes.
I think what you'll find is that it justifies the spend. I would also say you don't have to spend a lot of money on this. Consultants, I love our consultants. Absolutely. If you have the coin, spend them on good consultants. But there's lots of free content out there. You can figure it out on your own without spending any money or
Mm-hmm.
spending very little money that will just sort of help you to get things started.
Yes, that's it.
I think
Yeah.
once the ball is rolling, you can go, oh, look, our voluntary turnover rate just dropped by 1%. Well, that 1% is probably worth hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yes. Yes.
So then you say, oh, you know what? We're going to earmark $10,000 next year for training. And that's going to, save us another $100,000. It doesn't have to be a lot of money. But it's sort of like, I use this analogy. It's getting a gym membership and not going and expecting something's going to change. You do nothing, you get nothing.
That part.
And
Yes. Yes.
so, do something
Use
and
something.
I think you'll see the benefit.
Yeah. And I just love how you even shared with Jimmy Kimmel and Disney. It was not the ethical thing for them
Yeah,
to, it was
I know.
ethical to get him back because of free speech, but money talked. And we used our consumer dollars and our disposable income to make sure that we were
Exactly.
the catalyst for change. We used our privilege of those
Yes.
subscriptions to
Yes.
say, I have the privilege to cancel my subscription if it's not the content I want to consume. So
Perfect.
again, it goes hand in hand, y'all, when it comes to utilizing our privilege to have that catalyst for change. And
Yeah.
again, like you said, the return on investment has high yields because if you are a company that stands on business of your idea for all of your employees and the clients and the consumers that use your products and services, it will come in dividends. We've all seen the boycotts of major box retailers as well and how
Hmm.
they make big changes at the top. So that stuff happens, and that I think is that benefit of not realizing that we do have the power of our own privilege to make,
Yeah.
positive change. Another thing
I think
before
it's,
we, yeah, go ahead.
if I could, Jeb, I was just going to add on to
Yeah.
say, I think it's really easy for people to think, well, I'm one person. I don't have power. No, ma'am, you have
Oh, yeah.
tons of power. So all of those Disney subscribers, one by, it's not like there was a Zoom call and we all figured it out that we were going to cancel. One person canceled, then 10 people, and so on and so on. And yes, it's just one, whatever it is, $15 a month for me, but it was billions of dollars for Disney. And it's the same with going to Target. I will use
Mhm.
their name. You
Yeah.
may think, well, it's just easy and I'm only one person. But if everyone thinks that, then they don't feel the pain.
Yes.
So that individual privilege has a lot of power.
Oh, yes. Yeah. That old African proverb, many hands make light work. And it's just like,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. And oh gosh, I just love this. And okay, let's talk about you on the global stage, honey. I mean,
Mm.
worldwide, helping get these workplaces and workforces to be more inclusive. I feel like a lot of people, when they think of DE and I work, they only think of North America.
Yeah.
We've got issues of DE&I spaces all over the place. Even if you come from the same identity as people can think of as, oh, they're just homogeneous because they're all looking alike. We have different identities within each other as individuals. So share with us, Michael, on your journey of being on this global stage, what moment stands out to you the most? I know you got a lot of moments, but just, yeah, what moment stands out to you the most being that thought leader?
Probably when I started in the global role. Um, so I was the deputy chief diversity officer for KPMG globally, 152 countries at the time. And it was very early on in the firm's journey. And most of those 152 countries didn't have any sort of DEIA work. That, I can sort of count on one hand the number of countries that were active. And it's the usual suspects: Canada, US, Australia, UK, France was the other one.
Okay.
Um, and I had to go into each country and figure out what that journey meant for them. And I
Mhm.
really had, it was a tough lesson to learn initially, but I had to take off my North American lenses because I, of course, grew up in Canada, worked half of my adult life in the US and the other half in Canada. And I had to take those off to understand, what does this conversation look like in China, in
Mhm.
Japan, in India,
Mhm.
in South Africa. Um,
Yes.
and I think it was a truly humbling and honorable opportunity because I got to learn so much. And I just left my baggage at home and went into those conversations to say, let's talk about what it means to be Chinese. What are the challenges you're facing? In the case of China, they have a law on the books that requires employers to employ a certain number of people with disabilities. And if you don't, you have to pay a fine. Well, most corporations just put the fine in their budget. And we're talking about millions of dollars a year.
Wow.
And so I went to the Chinese firm and I said, you're paying this. I forget what the number was. It was a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, why don't we work on a plan to eliminate that? And within 2 years, they were no longer paying the fine. It was a very achievable goal. It wasn't hard, but to them, it was like, oh, a person with a disability, they hear that. And what they think is somebody who is institutionalized. It's not somebody who's able to contribute. And that's not a commentary on KPMG in China. It's a commentary on China.
Mm-hmm.
This is the thought.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas when you look at the definition of disability in China, there's a lot of people that are covered under that. And I had to help them understand that this wasn't, a nuisance. This wasn't a thing they had to do. It was a way to benefit the firm because they also got access to a different source of talent. That's the one that those stories stick out a lot for me at the very beginning because it was such a learning curve for me.
Yeah. And again, the the systematic privilege for them as that firm to say, well, we'll just pay the fine versus
Yep.
giving a plethora of people that have diverse backgrounds within their disability to come contribute and be innovative within their company, and to help, be a facilitator for that to see. And I love how you even said it wasn't a lofty goal. So many people, when they're thinking about DE&I and A work, is, oh, this is so hard. We've got to get all these initiatives and this and that. It can be just as simple as how do we eliminate this fine and also grant access to more wonderful candidates that are going to help serve your firm and bring you up to the next level. That's just
Yeah.
amazing. Any other thoughts before we get into the world of Michael Bach? Because I really want my listeners to follow, get your book, and all the things. So, any last bits of advice before we wrap up today?
Oh, I'll say the same thing that I say at the end of every conversation. Do
Yeah.
something, please.
Yes. Yeah.
It's so easy not to.
Yes.
As a society, and I'm not just talking about the United States, but around the world, we lazy. People is lazy. And,
So lazy.
and when I'm delivering my topics and I get to the end, I provide actions that people can take. And they are the simplest of things. These are not like massive things. They're simple things. And if you do something, if every single person did something to make the world more inclusive, wow, what an incredible thing that would be.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's going to, be such a heavy lift for you. These are simple things. Like, let me give you an example.
Yes. Yes.
Your name, Jebeh.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew how to pronounce your name, but had I not, I would have said to you, tell me how to pronounce your name.
Mm-hmm.
The simplest of things. And that gives you the opportunity to make sure that I don't screw it up. But it also says to you, it's your name. I respect you. I want to say it right. And I do that with every person who I meet who I don't know how to pronounce their name. I ask. Don't assume, just ask.
Yes.
It is a tiny little thing to do, but the impact is significant. It builds relationships. It makes people feel respected and seen. And it is such a simple thing to do. If everyone just did one thing in their day to make their workplaces, their communities more inclusive, we'd be living in a different world.
We totally would. We totally would. Because, yeah, we can tell you what is our favorite Netflix binge episode, but just to go ask your neighbor a simple thing like, I've been
Yeah.
calling you the wrong name or pronouncing it the wrong way. Can you please just help me out? Oh, yeah. It makes them feel
Yeah,
valued, that you see me as a person of value and that.
absolutely.
Oh, Michael, this has been such an amazing conversation. I feel like I could just have coffee with you anytime. Thank you
Hmm.
so much for sharing your wisdom and your journey and your heart with us today. And for our listeners, I want you to sit with this question. How can your privilege become your catalyst for change? Is it in your community, in your workplace, asking about your name? And I want you to reflect on that, journal it, take action. Like Michael said, just take action. And Michael, where can our listeners find and follow your work and grab a copy of your books?
They can go to my website, which is michaelbach.com. They can follow me on social media. I am at the Michael Bach on all of the platforms. And if they go to my website, they will, there's links to where they can buy the books.
Awesome. And I will also have those links of your work in my show notes as well, so they can definitely connect with you. And don't forget,
Fabulous.
friends, you can also connect with me at jebehedmunds.com for resources and lesson plans to continue this work of positive change. So until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and stay inclusive. See you next time. Bye bye.